Hi, everybody. Welcome to the interview of the week. Last week, Steve asked me, so who are you interviewing next week? And I gave him that deer in the headlight look and said, hey, how about you and I just talk about what ministry's been like the last couple of months since mid-March when COVID-19 really became a major player in all of our lives. So here we are. Steve and I are going to just kind of give you a little taste of what ministry's been like for all of us. And let me just take this opportunity to give a shout out to the rest of our staff, to Brian and Joanna and Michelle and Kelsey and Josh. Everybody's just jumped in, stepped up to the plate, been creative, and found ways to continue to do ministry well. But Steve and I are just going to chat a little bit about what that's been like. Steve, we went from a kind of barely online presence to a fully and completely online presence, and that's been kind of a high learning curve for both of us.
Oh yeah.
So tell good folks what that's been like. What's been your biggest challenge as you've done so much editing and so much filming,
Sure.
and what's life been like for you, Steve?
Well, it's been good.
Okay.
I have a hard time sitting still, and the idea of going home and staying at home was like, okay, where's the highest tree to jump out of, So this has been really good for me from that perspective. I did have to laugh with Gary Walker. The fact that I have a great appreciation, you watch a movie and all those credits roll by for like 2 minutes.
Right.
And you think, well, why in the world did they need 1,000 people to make this movie? And now you realize that there's one guy whose only job is to look up there at the platform and say, why didn't we get that white plug covered before we shot this movie? And so those kind of things have been nerve-wracking, but at the same point in time, you take a breath and you go, this is for God, and we're doing our best, and we're touching base with each other, and I think that's been exciting to see.
What do you think's been the biggest challenge for you as all this change came along?
Sure. I think the biggest challenge has been just getting your head around this. On one level, as I think Nick or somebody else said a few weeks ago, most of us have not had this crisis come right up into our face. We've been healthy. Most of the people we know are healthy. We've not lost our job or whatever. I know there are many people in the congregation that are suffering, and so it's that kind of thing of, is this really real? And yes, it's real. And it's been an interesting testing time, I think, for faith.
Okay.
It's so easy for us pastors to go through with all this head knowledge, but do I really trust my future to God? And do I trust the future of this congregation to God when I can't, put all my expertise, behind that pulpit to bear to bring them the Word of God? So for me, that's been a real enlightening and difficult kind of moment, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you kind of a fun question. Maybe it's fun, maybe it's not, but what do you miss most about life before COVID?
Yeah, I miss getting together with people for food.
Oh.
Some of my favorite times have been when we've had staff planning meetings, sermon planning meetings at our house.
Yes, ours too, because you're a good cook.
Well, gotten to throw the food on the table. I come from a family that's, you're around a table. It's one of the reasons why I'm so passionate about communion, the table of the Lord. It's like God's invited us to dinner, and we don't really deserve to be there. And so for me, it's fun to just bring people into your house. I miss the restaurants we've discovered in Portland. Reverend's Barbecue and some of those. It's like, come on back, guys, hurry back. I miss the farmer's market.
Oh.
We were looking forward to spring. Modesto has cold weather. We get frost in California, but not like the seasons up here.
Right.
And so Judy and I were just waiting for spring to get back out and explore Oregon and farmers markets, and it's like, this is not happening.
Okay, waiting a little longer, although it might happen sometime this summer.
Well, they're
perhaps.
open again. Some of them now are open again, and I miss worship together.
Yeah.
Although I must say, as a pastor, I understand sabbatical or Sabbath a little more.
Yes.
Sitting in our bay window Sunday mornings with a cup of tea, a good theology book, and the sun coming in, it's like, who needs church? I didn't say that. But there's that sense of sometimes I think we are too busy with the institutional thing. And this has really, I think, given us all a flavor for just how we need to encourage each other to find that balance and those moments of Sabbath and rest and rejuvenation.
Agreed. I have found that to be true as well. Well, you mentioned enjoying being, with your cup of tea and a good theological book. So I just have to say, Steve just reads all the time, and he's always giving us these wonderful little sections out of a book. Here's a paragraph, here's a few pages. Anything you just want to share with us is something really rich that you've read during this time?
One of my favorite authors, several of us, is N.T. Wright. He's such a bright man and loves God so deeply and loves the church so profoundly, which doesn't always go with scholars. Sometimes scholars are just very heady, but N.T. Wright, his whole purpose for studying Scripture is to encourage the church and bless the church. Well, he's written as his masterwork, a 1,700-page volume on the Apostle Paul, and I've read that a few years ago, and so I've been going through that again, and it's really impressed me that for such a time as this, that message is so important. Wright talks about how, for Paul, his worldview, those things he takes for granted, the way the world's put together, the way God is, the way God reacts to us, was all in Paul's mind, very, very wrapped because of his Jewish background. He was a scholar. And then Jesus happened. Totally turned all of that upside down. And Paul begins through these New Testament books to explain to the church what this new worldview is all about and how it really changes everything they've thought. And one of the keys that Wright talks about is the reconciled being reconcilers. And he sees that as Paul's main theme, that those of us who have no business being friends of God because we were enemies with God, God is embraced and brought into. And when we recognize that, that should create in us a total different worldview, that our task from then on is to bring other people into that moment. I find that's always been my passion. That's why I love communion so much. It's God saying, I don't care what you're wearing, I don't care how you smell, come on in, sit down, and let's eat, and you'll know I love you.
Yes.
And it again encouraged me that with all that we've got going on in the church, all the decisions we've got to make, all of the uncertainties, that still is our only reason for being here, is to help other people taste and see that God is good. And so it's been moments like that that I've enjoyed rekindling old friendships in books that told me who God was in a good way.
Thank you, Steve. And you always remind me who God is. He always broadens my heart and my mind around the expanse of God and
so
his
good.
love for us. He's so good and he's so welcoming, and that there's not a lot we can do to mess it up. We're his kids.
We try hard.
Well, we do. We do a pretty good job of that. But thank you for being who you are and for bringing us that richness every time we take communion together. So thanks for that.
So Denise, I've been talking my head off like I usually do. But I see you from the outside of your office, and I know your stresses are continuing through this time. You're the senior pastor. You care a great deal about this place. So what have been some of the things, though, that have energized you amidst all those challenges? How are you keeping you ask every week, what are you doing to keep sane? I think that all fits into this.
Okay. I think some of the things that have energized me through this, Steve, is, first of all, I have to just admit that first month adrenaline just kicked in.
Yeah.
And it was this sudden realization that everything we do to connect with people was all of a sudden just taken away. And rightfully so, understandably so. So I had that adrenaline of, hey, we've got to stay connected. And how are we going to do this? And let's jump online. We've had some experience with snowstorms in the past that helped us taste being online, but everything. But I was energized to let the creative juices flow, to get Sunday morning, and I've been told we're improving each Sunday, and Steve's right, it's all a learning process, but that's been energizing to me as well. I'm a lifelong learner, maybe in a different way, but I love to learn. That's been fun. Doing interviews, and we've had good feedback from those. People are enjoying seeing somebody else and hearing from one of us how this whole thing has affected us, from, you know, Dr. Cook with Warner Pacific, Nick Hooker as a teacher, the Gunthers as a family, Gary at Providence, Chris Davison in her business career, Jerry Davison as our district pastor. That's been enriching to me and energizing, just to have people come and say, this is how my industry's been affected, this is how my family's been affected. So I've enjoyed that process. I think as far as personally staying sane, Monday through Thursday is a huge push to get everything ready, done, taped, on, and then I too have really found a blessing to be in my home Saturday, Sundays. I'm a homebody. I do miss everybody. I truly do, and look forward, and it will be so energizing when we start coming back together. But I've enjoyed the quiet in my home, quiet, relaxed time with Jesus, not a, hey, I've got 30 minutes and then I got to jump into the day.
Yeah, this is your time, Jesus. Take advantage of it. Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
Oh. So those are some of the things keeping me sane. Quiet time at home, long walks with Fred, enjoying our last son in the house who moves out.
I was just going to ask you to expound on that, because a lot of people don't know what's going on with Brian.
Okay, well, our son Brian, our 22-year-old, graduated from nursing school in December, got a job pretty quickly with Providence as an ER nurse, and he's ready to move out. So this coming week, he will move out on his own, and Fred and I will be truly empty nesters.
I'll tell you, kids, don't listen to this. It's a wonderful thing.
Don't tell Brian, but
don't tell
yay!
Brian. However, that stage that Brian and Eric are in is the stage that I enjoyed the most, because you poured all your life into them, and now they're out there doing something.
Yes.
So that's hard to let them go at that point.
It is. It's been such a rich time. I've loved, he's working night shift. He comes home in the morning. We share breakfast, and I get to hear the fabulous ways, you're right, that he's giving into other people's lives.
So Denise, what are some of the concerns you've got for the future, for the church, for your family, whatever?
Wow. I think right now, as we've walked through this, some of my greatest concerns and heartaches have been for those who really are feeling the isolation piece. Those who really are lonely, those who struggle with mental health, and we all do to a certain degree. So I don't want to minimize that, and some struggle with depression, anxiety greater. So I have a concern for those being affected. I have hurt for those walking through any other type of other crisis. It's like all of life should stop and we get to just have the COVID crisis, but no. People get cancer diagnoses and they get they have to go in for surgery alone and wake up alone. That's been a huge concern. And
the fact that we can't jump in there like we would in normal circumstances and minister in ways that we trust, because we've done them before and they work.
Exactly.
I think that's been hard for pastors. I've seen it hard on you. I can see that from a distance. I
agree with you. That twists my gut, if you want to say it that way. And I know for Brian and for you, we've struggled with pastoral care during this time for those who have lost a loved one and who can't just live into the cultural rituals we've developed, a celebration of life, a memorial, and to hurt for them and help them find ways to mark that life and to honor that life. It's tricky. It's tricky to know human touch. Like you said, you miss hugs. I think most of us do, or at least that warm handshake. And with people in moments of crisis, to know when you can enter a home or when you really shouldn't in order to protect the vulnerable in that home and do pastoral care. Those are some of the concerns. Those are the hard places of all of this. Yeah.
What do you see as the positives? What's come out of this that you think is going to benefit us? And
I think a lot of creativity. I've loved it, both in the church world and in the business world. I've been proud of our colleagues in ministry, not only here at Mount Scott, but just everywhere. I love checking out who's doing what online, and I feel that's a positive. We've gotten a positive message out further into the world about Jesus Christ, and so that I see has just been phenomenal. I'm enjoying, as the culture starts to reopen a bit, I'm going, wow, we can do this safely and creatively. So I just never cease to be amazed at humanity's creativity with what is thrown at them.
And resilience.
Yes, resilience is a great word.
I think you're right. I think we are going to see some new connectedness, some new appreciation of uniqueness out of this that it was too easy to stay isolated before.
One of my concerns is that we're going to switch right back to the cultural divisiveness.
Sure.
We're already starting to see that. And so my concern for us as the church, for our leadership and for us as a church at large, is that we just won't go there.
Yeah.
We choose not to go back to that divisive us against them mentality. That's kind of our path forward as we begin to reopen. We're gonna keep leaning into that to say, let's do this with humanity together. I don't know who came up with the slogan, but I really like it. We are better together. Not just our little church group, but humanity. We are better together. God created all of us. So we miss you all. Encourage you to stay engaged with us. Call us, email us. You can even start, making appointments. Come by and have a social distance visit with us. We would love that. Maybe some of you want to come and walk through the sanctuary and pray. You can do that as well. So thanks for being here for Interview of the Week. Next week, we have Brian interviewing Emma from the family homeless shelter on 92nd. So be sure and tune in next week. Thanks, you guys.